Hola amigos de Español Mil, and welcome back for another exciting week of Spanish grammar. This week we are starting Chapter 4. Fortunately, you can see there are not as many grammar topics covered in this chapter as in some of the past, although the grammar does get a little bit more difficult. So we're going to take it step by step together. We're going to start here with the present tense of stem changing verbs in Spanish. So what I mean by that, before we can get into stem changers, I want to make sure that you understand how your traditional AR, ER, and IR verbs work in Spanish. So I'd like for you to take a moment. There are a couple of traditional verbs here: hablar, to talk, to speak; comer, to eat; and escribir, to write. I want you to take a moment. I want you to pause your audio, and I want you to try to conjugate all of these verbs in their various forms, and let's see how you do. Okay, now that you've had a second to try these, it's very, very important that you know how to do these. So if you can't do these, then the stem changers are going to be 10 times more difficult for you. Okay, so it's really important you know how to do this. I'm going to just go through these really quickly with you. So as we look at the verb hablar, the first thing we do when conjugating any verb in Spanish is we take off either the AR, the ER, or the IR. So in this case, hablar was an AR verb. We're going to take off the AR. I like to tell my students in the in-person classes, we're next going to hobble on down, carry down the HABL. We're going to hobble on down. When we've done that, we have to go back and add our AR present tense endings: o, as, a, amos, ais, and an. So you end up with hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, hablais, and hablan. So I talk, you talk, he talks, we talk, you all in Spain talk, and they talk. So this conjugation process, chopping off the AR and adding the O, as, a, amos, ais, and an. Next, we're going to take a look at the verb comer. So we take off the ER in comer. We have to come on down with the COM. If I want to say that I eat, we're going to say yo como, tú comes, él, ella, usted come, nosotros comemos, vosotros coméis, and ellos, ellas, ustedes comen. So you're adding those appropriate endings. O, es, hemos, es, en. If we were looking at the verb escribir, we would do the same thing. Chop off your IR, carry down the escrib all the way down, as you see in the blue, and then add our IR endings, o, es, e. This time we have imos instead of amos, is instead of es, and en. So you can see all of those for you there. Now, that little review should help you with the stem changing verbs, which we're going to take a look at now. So there are different types of stem changing verbs in Spanish, and when I talk about a verb and a stem changer, if we were looking at hablar, for example, the AR in hablar, that's my ending, that's the end. But when you take off the AR, what you're left with, the HABL, that's my stem. So in the past, as you've conjugated verbs, all you've had to do is take off the ending, the AR, ER, IR, and throw some new endings on there. Now, you're not only changing the ending, you're also going to change the stem. So that means that something happens to this first part. Okay, so there are 4 different types of stem changers in Spanish, and we are going to begin by talking about E to IE stem changers. So let's pretend you had this verb querer. By the way, querer means to want. And let's say you don't know that stem changers exist. You've never heard of that. If you were going to conjugate querer, you would start by, hopefully you're saying take off the ER. That's the first thing we're going to do. Now that we've done that, we're going to carry down the querer part, Q-U-E-R, and add our endings, which for an ER verb are o, es, e, hemos, es, and en. Well, that's not entirely right because we've changed our ending. We took the ER and added O, S, A, hemos, es, and we changed the ending, but we haven't changed the stem. So something now has to happen to the Q-U-E-R, the querer part. Well, querer happens to be a stem changing verb from E to IE. So the interesting part about this process is that for the nosotros and vosotros forms, nothing happens here. They remain as queremos and querréis. But for your other forms, the yo, tú, él, ella, usted, and ellos, ellas, ustedes, something does happen to those. So I put nosotros and vosotros here in green because we know we're good to go. Those are correct. But the others are wrong. We have to change our stem. We have to change the E to an IE. So instead of quiero, you get quiero. Instead of quieres, you get quieres. Instead of quiere, quiere, and quieren. These two are right, queremos and queres. So the nosotros and the vosotros never change. The stem part never changes on those. They remain the same. And I'll show you a way to remember this in just a moment. But first, this verb querer is a very commonly used verb in Spanish, one that you will see a lot. So I have a little YouTube video that I think will help you to remember this verb. So let's take a moment and watch this short little video clip together.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
So this guy in his Taco Bell is very impressed by this Chihuahua that can speak in Spanish. So again, instead of saying quiero, he said yo quiero Taco Bell. I want some Taco Bell. Yo quiero Taco Bell. The big takeaway here is that with your stem changing verbs, they do not change in the nosotros or the vosotros. They only change when we're inside of what we refer to as the boot. So if you look here at the yo, tú, él, ella, usted, and ellos, ellas, ustedes forms, which I've highlighted in yellow, these sort of begin to form a boot or a shoe. So sometimes people like to refer to these stem changers as boot verbs or shoe verbs because they form a shoe. And inside of that shoe, the stem change happens. The E changes to an IE. But outside of the boot, the E does not change. It just remains as an E. It does not become an IE. Okay, so I have another verb here that I'd like for you to try that works in a similar way. This verb is also an E to IE stem changer, as I've told you here in parentheses. And this is the verb empezar, which means to begin or to start. Okay, so I want you to take a moment. I want you to pause this video and give this verb a try for me. Okay, now that you've had a moment to try, empezar, we begin, hopefully, as you know, by chopping off the AR. We carry down the stem that is left over, the empez, E-M-P-E-Z. Next, we're going to throw in our endings, so o, as, a, amos, ais, and an, because this is an AR verb. And we know that the nosotros and the vosotros do not have to change. They're perfectly great. Empezamos, we begin, and empezáis, you all begin. Nothing has to happen there because they're outside of the boot. But the yo, tú, él, ella, usted, and ellos, ellas, ustedes forms, they do have to change. This E has to become an IE. And people always ask me, but Mr. Harrison, there's two E's. Oh my gosh, how do I know which one to change? Well, you're never going to change the very first letter, okay? So you can just ignore that. It happens to be the one in the middle of the verb. So you get empiezo, empiezas, empieza, and empiezan. Okay, the others stay the same with no stem change. They just remain as an E. But these are changing to an IE because, as you can see, these fall within the boot, whereas the nosotros and vosotros do not. Okay, so hopefully this is starting to make a little sense. That covers our E to IE verbs. I want to give you just one more of these to try, just to make sure you got it, okay? So one more time, please pause your audio, and we're going to give the verb pensar a try. Pensar means to think, like I think that, you think that. So pause your audio, give this one a try. Okay, now that you've had a moment to try these, as you know, we're going to begin conjugating by chopping off the AR. We're left with the PENS, pence. Okay, we need to go through and add our endings. So o, as, a, amos, ais, an. We've thrown those on there. We know that this is a stem changing verb from E to IE. We know we don't have to do anything with the nosotros or the vosotros because they're not inside the boot. We're going to change our E to an IE everywhere else. And we get pienso, piensas, piensa, pensamos, pensáis, and piensan. Okay, hopefully you're feeling pretty good about those. So E to IE stem changes, like the verbs that you just saw, querer, pensar, empezar, those are E to IE stem changers. As I told you before, there are 4 kinds of stem changers in Spanish, though. So you know how to do E to IE now. Let's look at another type of popular stem change, which is the O to UE stem changer. Okay, so we're going to start with a basic verb like poder. Poder means to be able to, like, man, I'm able to speak Spanish and you're able to play basketball and she's able to sing really well. So poder is to be able to. We're going to start conjugating poder by chopping off our ER. We're going to carry down the pod, P-O-D, all the way down. And then we're going to add our ER endings in this case. So o, es, e, hemos, es, en. Just like with our E to IE stem changing verbs, nothing happens in the nosotros or the vosotros because those are not inside of the boot. However, everywhere else, the O in poder is going to change to a UE, and therefore you end up with puedo, puedes, puede, podemos and podes stay the same, and pueden. Okay, and again, this is because you can form a boot here when you're not including the nosotros and the vosotros there because they're not inside the boot. Okay? Puedo, puedes, puede, podemos, podes, pueden. Right? Hopefully, starting to make some sense. I have one for you to try here. This is the verb encontrar, which means to find or literally to encounter. So if you would, please take a moment, pause your audio, and give this one a try. All right, now that you've had a second to try those, we're going to start by chopping off our AR like always. We're left with encontr, E-N-C-O-N-T-R. Next, we're going to throw in our AR verb endings because this is an AR verb. Encontro, encontras, encontra, encontramos, encontráis, and encontran. Well, that's not totally right because we know that the nosotros and the vosotros are good. They don't change because they're not inside the boot. But everywhere else in encontrar, our O must change to a UE. So here inside the boot, we see encuentro, encuentras, encuentra, encontramos, encontráis, and encuentran, changing the O to a UE. All right, we're making progress. We've covered our E to IE stem changing verbs. We've covered now our O to UE stem changing verbs. Let's take a look at the third type of stem change in Spanish, which is just an E to I stem change. Now, you got to be very careful because some verbs in Spanish change from E to IE, like querer that we saw earlier. However, some verbs only change from E to I. So people always say, well, Mr. Harrison, how do I know which one changes? How am I supposed to know? Well, you just kind of have to memorize these. I am going to give you a cheat sheet, which will be on Canvas that you can use to help you. But in this case, your E is going to change just to an I. Let's start with a simple verb like pedir. Pedir means to ask for, or in some cases to order, like I'm going to ask the waiter to bring me some water, or I'm going to order some arroz con pollo, or whatever. So in this case, pedir is an E to I stem change. We're going to begin by chopping off our IR in pedir, carry down the paid part, P-E-D, all the way down. This is an IR verb, so let's throw our IR verb endings on there. O, es, e, hemos, is, and en. As you can probably guess, the nosotros and vosotros are good to go. They're totally cool, nothing wrong there. We can leave those alone because they are not inside the boot. Everywhere else, though, we need to change our E to just an I. So we get pido, pides, pide, pedimos, pedis, and piden. All right, hopefully that makes sense. I have one for you to, oh, and really quickly, again, you can see highlighted there in yellow, you see your boot, whereas the others are not in the boot. Okay, I want you to try the verb servir for me, which is also an E to I stem change. So take a moment, pause your audio. All right, so just like all of our other verbs, we're going to chop off our IR in servir. We're left with serve, S-E-R-V. We need to add our endings. This is an IR verb, so o, es, e, hemos, is, en. Hopefully you know that 2 of these are correct, and that is the nosotros and the vosotros that do not change. Our others, we need to take our E, change it to an I, and we end up with sirvo, sirves, sirve, servimos, servis, and sirven. All right, so now you know 3 kinds of stem changes in Spanish. You know the E to IE, the O to UE, and the E to I. Our final stem change in Spanish is a U to UE stem change. There's actually only one verb in the entire Spanish language that has this stem change from U to UE, and that is the verb jugar, which means to play, specifically to play a sport, jugar. So, as we look at jugar, just like all of our other verbs, we're going to take off our AR, carry down the jug part, the JUG, throw on our AR endings, o, as, a, amos, ais, an. Just like all of our other stem changing verbs, the nosotros and vosotros are correct, totally unaffected because they're not inside the boot. Our other forms, we must take the U, change it to a UE. So we end up with juego, juegas, juega, jugamos, jugais, and juegan. All right. So I put on this slide that it's time for a cheat sheet and that you can see Canvas. I will make sure to upload my little stem changing verbs cheat sheet, and I made this for the Spanish 1000 class. These are just very common stem changing verbs that you see in Spanish. This is not every single verb in the whole language, but it's very, very common verbs that you will see in this course. So here are some from E to IE, and I've given you the verb. I've highlighted the E that changes, and I've told you in parentheses what these mean in English. Same thing for your E to I stem changers and your O to UE. And then at the bottom, I just put some general verbs that you should know from past chapters like ser, estar, tener, ir, and gustar. And you can see these. This will be on Canvas for you, so you'll have that to reference. Okay, so as we keep looking, I've given you a couple of slides here, and you'll have to do something like this in my Spanish lab this week. So we mix them all together. You don't know which one is an E to IE, which one is an E to I, which one is an O to UE, or which one is an O to U. You kind of just sort of have to memorize or consult your cheat sheet. Okay, so let's take a look here. Number one tells us that Lauren pensar que el vestido rojo es feo. So Lauren to think that the red dress is really ugly. Okay, so Lauren thinks the red dress is ugly. Well, we need to know what kind of stem change pensar has. And I will tell you in all of these activities, these all have stem changers. Okay, so they have some kind of stem change. You have to know, well, is pensar an O to UE stem changer? I don't think so because there's no O. So we can cross that out. Is it a U to UE stem changer? Probably not. It doesn't have a U in there. So that allows us to narrow it down to two. It's either an E to IE stem change or it's an E to I. So if you consult your cheat sheet, you will know that pensar has a stem change from E to IE. So we're going to end up with piensar. I need to chop off my AR to conjugate. And in this case, I'm talking about Lauren or she. So I'm going to use my bottom left box, the ella form, and add an A. So I should end up with Lauren piensa que el vestido es feo. All right, number two tells us that ella preferir el vestido negro. So she thinks that red dress is ugly, but she prefers the black dress. So we're going to take the verb preferir, to prefer, and we need to conjugate it. So first we need to know what kind of stem change it has. Again, you can ask yourself, is it an O to UE? Nope, doesn't have an O. Is it a U to UE? Nope, there's no U in there. That means it has to be either an E to IE or an E to I. In this case, preferir, if you consult your sheet, preferir is an E to IE stem changing verb. And if you consult your sheet, you'll see that I've underlined the second E that changes. So my second E in preferir is going to change to an IE. So I get preferir. I need to chop off my IR. And I'm saying that Lauren, that she prefers. So again, my bottom left box for an IR verb, you know that your ending should be an E. So Lauren prefiere el vestido negro. Okay, I want you to take a moment, and I'd like for you to try numbers 3, 4, and 5 in this same process. Okay, now that you've had a second to try these, number 3 tells us that Janet dice que costar mucho. So Janet says that something cost a lot. In this case, start by asking yourself, what kind of stem change does costar have? Well, is it an E to IE? There's no E. That also means it's not an E to I. Okay, so we've narrowed it down to two. It's either a U to UE or an O to UE. Well, there's no U, so it has to be an O to UE stem change. Now, where this is a little ambiguous in this sentence, if you weren't reading it in the context of the whole paragraph, it probably wouldn't make sense. But Lauren thinks that the red dress is ugly. She prefers the black dress. And Janet says that blank cost a lot. So we're referring back to the dress, the black dress. She thinks that it cost a lot. So it, as you recall, probably from a previous lecture, it is our bottom left box in Spanish, that he, she, it box. So in this case, costar, I'm going to go ahead and change my O to a UE. I get cuestar. If I chop off my AR to say that it costs for my bottom left box, I'm going to add back an A. Janet says that cuesta mucho. Okay, number 4, Meg and Grayson repetir los comentarios de Janet. So Meg and Grayson, they kind of echo Janet's comments. They agree. They repeat her comments. Repetir, as you know from your sheet, is an E to I stem changing verb. It is my second E that changes to an I. So I can get repetir in this case, if I can type. Repetir. I next need to chop off my IR in repetir. And as I've done that, I need to decide about Megan and Grayson. Well, would Meg and Grayson be I, you, he, she, we, or they? Meg and Grayson would be they. So my bottom right box, I need to add an E in. Meg y Grayson repiten los comentarios de Janet. All right, and our last one. Profesor Arizón poder hablar español. So Professor Harrison can speak Spanish. We know that poder is an O to UE stem change, as you saw earlier. I can go ahead and get poder, chop off my ER, and Professor Harrison would be he, our bottom left box. We need to add back an E. Okay, so this is just some practice here. A little bit of additional practice for you on these stem changing verbs. If you feel like you got the hang of it, feel free to go ahead and fast forward to the next part of the grammar video. But if you need a little more practice, we'll go over these, and you might see these on a test or something on My Spanish Lab, who knows. So number 1 gives you a sentence, yo, no, and it gives you 2 different verbs, either entender, to understand, or perder, to lose, cuando el profesor habla en español. So I do not understand when the professor talks in Spanish, or I do not lose when the professor talks in Spanish. Obviously, entender, to understand, is our better option. We can cross out perder. We need to know what kind of stem change the verb entender has. If you consult your handy-dandy cheat sheet, you know that entender has a stem change from E to IE. Oh my gosh, but Mr. Harrison, there's 2 E's. How do I know which one to change? Oh no! Well, it's never the first E that changes, so it can't be that one. We're already taking off our ER on the end, so it has to be this middle E that changes. So we get entiender, with that middle E here, changing to an IE. Entiender. We're next going to chop off our ER. We said this was the yo form. I don't understand, so I need to add my yo form ending for an ER verb, which is an O. So I get entiendo. Let's do one more together. Number 2, nosotros blank, and your options are servir or pensar que la clase es difícil. So we serve that the class is difficult, or we think that the class is difficult. Obviously, we think sounds better, so let's chop out servir. We need to know that pensar has a stem change from E to IE, so we get piensar. We need to chop off our AR, and we think, so I bet we add amos, right? Is it piensamos? It is not. Oh my gosh, do you remember why? Well, if you go back up and consult what we referred to earlier with pensar as an E to IE stem changing verb, you will see that we do not change this E to an IE everywhere. In fact, it doesn't change in the nosotros form because it was not in the boot. So you got to be real careful with that, since in this case, pensar, the nosotros form does not fall in the boot. Instead of piensamos, we should have just pensamos. So the E does not need to change to an IE in that case. All right, so one last time, take a moment, pause your audio, and give numbers 3, 4, and 5 a try for me. All right, now that you had a second to try these. Number 3, mis amigos repetir estudiar esta noche. Or mis amigos preferir estudiar esta noche. So either my friends repeat to study tonight or my friends prefer to study tonight. I believe prefer makes more sense, so we'll chop off the ER. Preferir has a stem change from E to IE. You know from your cheat sheet it is your second E that changes. So we get preferir. I'm going to chop off my IR, and to say my friends, they prefer, we're going to add an EN. So mis amigos prefieren estudiar esta noche. Number 4. ¿Cuándo empezar tú a estudiar para el examen? ¿O cuándo pedir tú a estudiar para el examen? Well, when to begin you to study to the exam, or when to order you to study for the exam. So it makes more sense to say when did you begin. So we're going to take empezar. We know that it has a stem change from E to IE. It is the second E that changes. We get empiezar. Chop off your AR. And in the to form, we need to add an AS on the end. Empiezas. When did you begin to study for the exam? And our last one, number 5. Tú siempre poder en la cafetería. You are always to able to in the cafeteria. Or tú siempre almorzar en la cafetería. Well, it makes more sense to say that you always eat lunch, almorzar en la cafetería. So we can chop off poder. We know that almorzar is not an E to IE stem change because it doesn't have an E, which means it also can't be an E to I. It can't be a U to UE either because there's no U. In this case, almorzar is an O to UE stem change. We're going to take our O, go ahead and put our UE in. We get almuerzar, chop off our AR, and we need to add in the to form an AS to say that tú siempre almuerzas en la cafetería. All right, hopefully you are feeling much better about these stem changing verbs in Spanish. Okay, so the second major grammar point in this chapter refers to direct objects, direct object pronouns, and what we call in Spanish the personal a. So that may sound like Greek to you, especially if in your grammar classes, maybe in elementary school or high school or middle school, maybe you didn't learn grammar about the English language. So I find that it's important to discuss what these things mean in English first. So as we take a look at our direct objects are basically the noun that generally follows and receives the action of a verb. If you're curious in your sentence as to what is the direct object, ask yourself the question of what or whom about the verb. For example, in English, Lindsay calls her boyfriend John. Lindsay llama a su novio John. Well, Lindsay calls whom, or she calls what? She calls John in this case. So in some cases, your direct object can actually be a person, or sometimes it's just an inanimate object. So in this case, Lindsay calls her boyfriend John. John is the person and also the direct object of the verb calling in this sentence. Look at another example. Pablo compra un teléfono celular. Pablo buys a cell phone. Pablo buys who? Pablo buys what? If you ask yourself that question of who or what, you can always find your direct object pretty easily. So in this case, he buys what? Oh, he buys a cell phone. Okay, a cell phone, that's my direct object in this case. In Spanish, direct objects can take the form of me, te, lo, la, nos, os, los, or las. Usually, you see the ones in green used more commonly here. So I always tell my students there's 2 ways to say it in Spanish. You can choose between lo or la. If the it you're referring to is masculine, then in this case, you're going to use lo. If the it you're referring to is feminine, you're going to use la. Okay, and then you also may choose between the 2 ways to say them, los or las. If the items you're referring to are plural, you will use, and masculine, you would use los. If they're plural and feminine, you would use las. Okay, so lo, la, los or las. And then when you're referring to a person, a male would be lo, it or him literally. A female would be la. 2 men, los. 2 women, las. Or a man and a woman, los. Okay, so you can see these used interchangeably. So if we go back up to our last example, Lindsay calls her boyfriend John. Her boyfriend John would be him, in this case, so we would be using our lo. Pablo buys a cell phone. Un teléfono is masculine, so again, it would be lo. Let's take a moment to look at this personal thing we were talking about here. So when the direct object is a person, we have to add what is called the personal after the verb. So for example, quiero mucho a mi mamá. I love my mom a lot. Well, I love who? I love what? Oh, I love my mom, a person. Okay, so in this case, since whatever comes after my verb, quiero, is a person, I need to add the personal before the person's name. So I love my mom, quiero mucho a mi mamá. This is a very common error of people who are native speakers of English who learn Spanish. They oftentimes want to leave the out of the sentence. Okay, another example that you need to know, the personal is required before every human in a series. So if I say quiero mucho a mi mamá and my dad, I would say quiero mucho a mi mamá y a mi papá también. You have to include both of those, the a before both human objects. Another example, visito a Meg y a Whitney. I can't just say visito a Meg y Whitney. Visito a Meg y a Whitney. You have to have both. Okay, so now as far as direct objects go, you can use these direct object pronouns in a conversation also when you've already established what that direct object is. And what I mean by that, if you have a conversation going on between your professor and a student, and the professor says, "Hey Nate, ¿cuándo ves a tu primo?" When do you see your cousin? And Nate doesn't have to say, "Oh, I saw my cousin last night, professor." You could say, "I saw him last night." So we could shorten a tu primo with lo. It's okay to go ahead and shorten that, which is the very common thing to do. It makes speech sort of more natural and shorter. It's a little easier. Okay. Also, when you alternate in conversations between two people, it's very common to see these direct objects change. A lot of students forget to make these changes, which is why I'm bringing this up. So what I mean by that, if I ask you, "Hey, do you like grapes?" You don't answer and look at me and say, "Hey, yeah, you like grapes," or "No, you don't like grapes." You say, "Yeah, I like grapes," or "No, I don't like grapes." So a lot of people forget to make that change in Spanish. They forget to change the te to me. So for example, you see a conversation here between la novia de Blaine and Blaine and his girlfriend. Blaine's girlfriend says, "Oh, me quieres de verdad? Do you love me for real?" And Blaine says, "Sí, sí, te quiero con todo mi corazón. I love you with all my heart." He didn't say, "Me quiero." Yeah, I love myself with all my heart. He said, "Yeah, te quiero. I love you with all my heart." So make sure you know the difference. So again, direct objects most commonly are seen as lo, la, los, or las, but can use people as well, me, te, nos, or os. And as far as where they go, this is the part that really confuses people. Okay, so make sure you listen carefully. There are two options for placing the direct object pronoun in your sentence. Option one is to put the direct object pronoun before the conjugated verb. You know that the verb is conjugated because you had to take off the AR, ER, IR and do something to it. So you're not putting this in front of hablar, you're not putting it in front of comer, you're not putting it in front of escribir, because those are verbs that are not conjugated yet. Those are what we call infinitives. You're going to put this pronoun, this direct object pronoun, in front of a verb that is already conjugated. So look at this sentence. Te voy a llamar esta tarde. I'm going to call you this afternoon. So voy, in this case, I am going, is my conjugated verb. So I put my direct object before that conjugated verb, and I said te voy a llamar esta tarde. Literally, to or for you, I'm going to call this afternoon. Okay, that's option one, putting the direct object pronoun before your conjugated verb. Option two, you can take your direct object pronoun and you can attach it to the infinitive. Recall again, an infinitive is a non-conjugated verb like hablar, comer, escribir. So instead of saying te voy a llamar, Esta tarde, I said, voy a llamarte esta tarde. I'm going to call you this afternoon. Notice that llamarte is one word. There is not a space between llamar and te. It is completely and totally attached, absolutely no spaces of any kind. Voy a llamarte esta tarde or te voy a llamar esta tarde. So again, your two options. Number one, put it before the conjugated verb. Number two, attach it to your infinitive. Now, I will say that native speakers of Spanish, in my opinion, tend to attach to the infinitive more. It sounds more natural, easier to say, I'm going to call you this afternoon. Voy a llamarte esta tarde. It's perfectly okay to say to or for you, I'm going to call this afternoon. Te voy a llamar esta tarde. Excuse me. I always tell my students, when in doubt, make sure to go through and put it in front of your conjugated verb. If you are ever uncertain that you're putting it in the right place, put it in front of your conjugated verb. It's not going to be wrong in front of your conjugated verb. So if you're unsure, put it in front of your conjugated verb. Here's another example. Brittany wants to buy the dress. We can shorten that to say Brittany wants to buy it. Well, what's the it we're talking about? The it is a dress, which in Spanish is el vestido. You know that el vestido is masculine and it is singular. So therefore, I'm going to use lo instead of la to say it, right? Okay, so my options, Brittany wants to buy. Brittany quiere, she wants, to buy, comprar. Okay, two options. Put it in front of your conjugated verb. Brittany blank quiere comprar. In this case, quiere is my conjugated verb, so I'm going to put my object in front. Brittany, it wants to buy. Brittany lo quiere comprar. Now, if you don't like it like that, you can attach it to the infinitive as well. You can say that Brittany quiere comprar lo. No space between comprar and lo, one word. Brittany quiere comprarlo. Both are totally correct. Brittany lo quiere comprar. Brittany quiere comprarlo. Both of those are going to work perfectly fine. No issues. All right, so I know these are hard. We're going to do a few very simple examples here, okay? So you see this picture of this woman here and this man, and he's holding a sombrero. And he asked, she asked, ¿Tienes el sombrero? Do you have the sombrero? He's going to say, sí, blank tengo. So do you have the sombrero? Yes, blank, I have. So do you have the sombrero? Yes, I have it. In this case, el sombrero, it is masculine and singular. So I'm going to replace el sombrero with lo. Notice, in this case, you have to say, sí, lo tengo. You cannot, under any circumstances, ever, sí, tengo lo. Never, ever. That's bad news bears. We cannot do that because, remember, the two places that our direct object pronoun can go. It can go in front of your conjugated verb, tengo, or it can be attached to an infinitive, a verb that's not been conjugated. AR, ER, IR still on the end. Well, in this case, there's no infinitive. It has to be si lo tengo. It has to go in front of your conjugated verb. So like I said, when in doubt, put it in front of your conjugated verb. Si lo tengo. Here's another example. ¿Tienes la bicicleta? Do you have the bicycle? And he says, sí, blank tengo. La bicicleta, the bicycle, it is going to become la in this case because it is both feminine and singular. So we're going to say sí, la tengo. What about this one? ¿Tienes la guitarra? Do you have the guitar? I bet he's going to say sí lo tengo, right? Wrong. He's going to say sí la tengo in this case because la guitarra was feminine and it was singular. So sí, la tengo. Ooh, what about this one? ¿Tienes el dinosaurio? Do you have the dinosaur? He's going to say sí, lo tengo, because el dinosaurio, in this case, was masculine and singular. So it became lo. All right, so let's try a few examples like what you're going to see on my Spanish lab. It tells you here that Jamira tiene el libro de español. Jamira has the book of Spanish. Remember, we don't say español libro because everything's backwards in Spanish. So Jamira tiene el libro de español. Jamira has the book of Spanish. We want to say Jamira has it. Jamira has it. So in this case, el libro de español is going to be replaced as lo, because book of Spanish, el libro, was masculine and singular. So I bet I say Jamira tiene lo, right? Wrong. Why is that wrong? Well, Remember, our direct object pronoun can come two places. It can be attached to the conjugated verb. There is no infinitive, there is no unconjugated verb in this place. Or it can go in front of our conjugated verb, which in this case is tiene, which came from tener. So we're going to say that Jamira lo tiene instead of tiene lo. This is your final answer. This is correct. We're good to go here. All right. Here's one more for you to do. We'll do this one together. Ana tiene las medicinas para los niños. Does Anna have the medicines for the children? Does Anna have them? So in this case, does Anna have who or what? Does she have the medicines? Does she have them? So las medicinas is going to become either los or las to say them. We know that in this case, medicinas are feminine and they are plural. So las medicinas will become las. So if I just rewrite my sentence, it looks like this. Ana tiene las para los niños. That can't be right because in this case, our direct object pronoun has to come before our conjugated verb. So we're going to take our las and put it before tiene, our conjugated verb. And we get Ana las tiene para los niños. Does she have them for the children? Okay, so a few examples for you to try that work the same way. Number one says that Jorge tiene la mochila de Pilar. George has Pilar's mochila, Pilar's backpack. So George has who? George has what? He has the backpack of Pilar. We know that la mochila in this case is feminine and it is singular. So in this case, are we going to replace la mochila de Pilar with lo, la, los, or las? Good. In this case, it's going to be la because mochila was feminine and singular. So we will say that Jorge la tiene. Okay, I want you to take a moment and I'd like for you to try numbers 2, 3, 4, and 5 on your own. All right, now that you got a second to try these. On number 2, it tells us that el profesor López enseña las clases de historia mexicana. So Professor Lopez teaches the Mexican history classes. In this case, Professor Lopez teaches who? Teaches what? He teaches the classes of Mexican history. We know that clases, las clases in this case, are plural. So we can narrow it down to either los or las. We know that they are feminine in this case. It says las clases. So we can use las as our object. El profesor las enseña. Okay. Number 3, los jóvenes van a visitar a sus abuelos. The young people are going to visit their grandparents. Well, the young people are going to go visit who? They're going to go visit what? They're going to visit their grandparents. Notice we have a personal a because we're talking about people. We said visitar a sus abuelos. Oh yeah, it's all coming together now. Okay, so in this case, the young people are going to visit their grandparents. Well, the grandparents in this case would be them. We have to decide, are we going to use los or las to say them? In this case, abuelos. We have a man and a woman, so we're going to use the masculine version. Los jóvenes van a visitar los. Going to visit them. Now notice, I attached los to visitar. Why did I do that? Well, two options. You can put it in front of your conjugated verb, or you can attach it to the infinitive. We've attached to the infinitive here. But what if I am not Cardi B and I'm not feeling it like that? What if I don't like it like that and I want to do it a different way? Well, I totes can. I can take off the los from visitar and I can put it in front of my conjugated verb. I can say los jóvenes los van a visitar, and it's totally cool. Works as well. Both sentences are grammatically correct because it can go in front of my conjugated verb or it can be attached to my infinitive. All right, number 4. ¿Dónde tomas el almuerzo? Where do you take your lunch? So where do you take it? El almuerzo in this case is the it, the lunch. Almuerzo is masculine and singular, so I get to choose between lo or la. Since it's masculine and singular, I have to use lo. So ¿dónde lo tomas? Where do you take it? And then number 5, buscamos los libros en la biblioteca. We're looking for some books in the library. Well, we're looking for who? We're looking for what? We're looking for the books, los libros. In la biblioteca, in the library, is a prepositional phrase. You can just like totes cross that out. Doesn't matter, not important, ignore it, whatever. Okay, so we're looking for them. We're looking for the books. Los libros, masculine plural. We're going to replace los libros with los, and we are good to go on direct object pronouns. Okay, I do want to briefly assess you as well on this personal that we talked about. Remember that if whatever comes after your verb in this case is a person, if you're using that as a direct object, you're going to use the personal So number one says, puedes invitar blank Alejandra a la fiesta si quieres. You can invite Alejandra to the party if you want. Well, in this case, my verb, invitar, and what comes after invitar is a person, Alejandra. So in this case, I do in fact need to use a personal Puedes invitar a Alejandra a la fiesta si quieres. I need a personal Number two, Adriana va a llamar blank su padre. Adriana is going to call her dad. She's going to call who? She's going to call what? She's calling her dad. Is dad a person? Sure is. So I need a personal Adriana va a llamar a su padre. I want you to pause your audio and give numbers 3, 4, and 5 a try. Okay, now that you had a second to try these, we're going to go backwards because I'm feeling weird today. We're going to start with number 5. It says, escribimos blank la tarea. We write blank the homework. Well, we write what? We write who? We're writing the homework. Oh, is homework a person? Nope, sure is not. Do I need a personal Nope. Escribimos la tarea. Number 4. Paco piensa comprar blank un disco compacto nuevo. Paco is thinking about buying a new CD. He's thinking about buying who? Buying what? He's going to buy a CD. Oh, is a CD a person? Nope, no personal needed. Boop, I'm done. Number 3. Mis amigos llaman blank sus 3 hijos. My aunts and uncles call their 3 children. They call who? They call what? They call their 3 children. Oh, are 3 children people? Yes, they are. So you need a personal Mis tíos llaman a sus 3 hijos. All right, hopefully you're feeling better about the way this personal process works and direct object pronouns in Spanish. Okay, so our third grammar topic to be covered in Chapter 4 is about demonstrative adjectives and pronouns, and we use these demonstrative adjectives all the time in English. So when you say this shirt, that backpack, those pens, these clothes, whatever it might be, those are demonstrative adjectives. This, these, that, those. And we use those a lot in English. So I'm going to teach you a little trick that my high school Spanish teacher taught me, and it stuck with me ever since. And that trick is that this and these both have T's, and that and those do not. So if you look here at this and these, you see este and esta. Both of these mean this. However, one is masculine, este, one is feminine, esta. And then you have that and you have this. And then if you look at the plural version for these, you have estos and estas. So notice that this and these both have T's, and I've highlighted the T's here in green for you. So este, esta, make them plural, estos, estas. If you remove the T's, you get that and those. So este and esta, this, ese and esa, that. You just took the T out. Este, this, ese, that. Esta, esa. You just took the T out. So this and that. For these, we do the same thing. We start with these. Estos, estas. Take out the T's. Esos, esas. This and these both have T's. That and those do not. Now, where this gets to be a little bit tricky, in English, we don't really have this problem, but let's say you're standing at your favorite store, you're at American Eagle, and you are looking at buying some jeans and some shirts, and you're like, man, I really like this shirt, but I don't like those pants. So I like this shirt. What you have to decide is shirt masculine or feminine? Okay, it's feminine, camisa. Is it singular or plural? Okay, there's only one shirt here, so it's singular. So I'm going to say esta camisa. In this case, it has to agree. ESTA goes with camisa because camisa is singular and it's feminine. So I get esta camisa. Now, so I like this shirt, but I don't like those pants. Well, pantalones are plural and masculine. So to say those in this case, I'm going to say esos pantalones because pantalones were plural and masculine, and esos went with that. So um, these demonstrative adjectives have to agree in both gender and number with the noun that they modify. Now, where it gets really confusing is if you're not standing immediately looking at something, it's kind of further away from you in the room, and you're like, so you're standing at the table and you see this shirt sitting there and you see those pants, and you're like, man, I don't like this shirt, or sorry, I do like this shirt, but I don't like those pants. We used esta and esos for those because they were in close proximity to us. You'll notice there's another category here in the chart of aquel, aquella, aquellos, and aquellas, in which case I've put that one over there, or those over there. So if you're looking at the table, I like this shirt, esta camisa, and those pants, esos pantalones, but then you see one hanging up at the back of the store on the wall, they have those displays, and you're like, oh my gosh, I really, really like that jacket. In this case, to say that jacket, we would say aquella camiseta because it's further away. It's a distance thing. And this is hard sometimes for students to understand. So you use these top four here very commonly whenever something is very close by. We're going to use este, esta, estos, estas, este, esa, esos, esas when things are close by. But when they're further away, distance-wise, we have to use aquel, aquella, aquellos, or aquellas. So try to remember the rhyme that this and these both have T's, that and those don't, and then you can think about the others as distance. Now, something else that comes into play, you can use the neuter form of these pronouns, which is basically always the masculine form, esto, eso, aquello, as what we call invariable pronouns. And this is whenever you are just referring to like an unspecified object or something really like generic, like, ugh, I don't like that. Aquello no me gusta. Or I don't understand that. No comprendo eso. We don't know what that is. It's just general, like, gosh, I don't understand calculus. No entiendo eso. Like, just totally generic. Or, esto está mal. This is wrong. So, very, very invariable pronouns. You can use the neuter form as well. I know these are hard, so let's look at some examples. I gave you in English first. I like that class more than this book. So I like that class. So think about that. And I need you to remember that this and these both have T's. That and those don't. Clase in this case is feminine. It was la clase. So for that, my two options here, if I can type here, my two options here were either ese or esa for that. Because remember, this and these both have T's. That and those don't. I'm referring to a clase, feminine, so I need to use esa in this case, esa clase. So I like that class more than this book. Well, for this, your options were este or esta. You know that book, libro in Spanish, in this case, is, I don't know why I put book, libro in Spanish is masculine and it is singular, so I need to use este instead of esta. Let's look at another example. I don't want those books, I want these books. So this and these both have T's. Let's start with that. This and these both have T's. Your options are estos or estas. For libros, masculine plural, I need to use estos. It has to agree. This ends in OS, that has to end in OS. So that would be these books. To say I don't want those books, this and these both have T's, that and those don't. Let's take estos and let's just take the T out, and now we have those. Yo no quiero esos libros. Yo quiero estos libros. Okay? Another example that works the same way. Man, I don't want this soft drink. I want that soft drink. So remember, this and these both have T's. Your options for this are este or esta. Refresco, in this case, is masculine and it's singular. So I'm going to use este, the masculine version. And to get that, I am just going to go through and I'm going to remove my T. So I get ese refresco. Okay? Notice when you pluralize them, you don't get eses or estes. These are estos and esos. So the singular form has an E, whereas the plural has an O. So, no quiero este refresco, quiero ese refresco. Let's do one more. I don't like this pen. I want that pen. I don't like this pen. Your options for this, remember this and these both have T's. You have este or esta. In this case, pluma, pen, is feminine and singular. So we're going to say esta pluma. I don't want that pen. We're just going to take this and remove the T, esa pluma. Okay, hopefully not too bad. Something that you might see on my Spanish lab this week or maybe on a test kind of looks like this. And again, remember you have to make these agree with gender and number with whatever they precede. So number one, ¿Quieres blank lápices aquí? Do you want blank pencils here? Well, think about lápices, which are pencils. Pencils, lápices, are masculine and they're plural. Okay, so I can automatically chop off estas because it's feminine. I've narrowed it down already to B and C just by looking at the gender of lápices. So your options are, do you want those pencils or do you want these pencils? So in this case we said here. So do you want these pencils here or do you want those pencils here? It makes more sense when you have the word aquí. It implies that something is close by. So we're going to use these in this case. So this and these both have T's. We can select B. Do you want these pencils here? Number two, voy a comprar blank mapa de México para mi profesor. I'm going to buy blank map of Mexico for my professor. Well, we know that mapa in this case, map in Spanish, is actually masculine. It is el mapa, not la mapa. So we can automatically, just based on that, cross out the C and the A to say, hey, I'm going to buy that map, ese mapa de México para mi profesor. Okay, I'd like for you to take a moment. I want you to pause your audio and I want you to give numbers 3, 4, and 5 a try for me. Number 3 tells us that ¿Cuáles bolígrafos quieres tú? Which pens do you want? Oh, I want blank ones. Well, what are we talking about? We're talking about pens, bolígrafos, which is masculine plural. So which pens do you want? Oh man, I want those over there. In this case, the only one that is masculine and plural, just like bolígrafos, is aquellos. So we can easily select that one. Number 4, blank mujer allá es la cuñada de Mario. So blank woman over there is the in-law of Mario. So that woman over there, we know we're talking about a woman, a mujer, which is feminine. So we can't use aquel or ese because both of those are masculine. We need aquella. We need something feminine because we're talking about a mujer, a woman. Okay, and one more. Blank partido de fútbol es muy aburrido. So blank soccer game is very boring, and you're trying to choose between esa, este, or esta. We know that the word partido for game, in this case, is masculine and it's singular, so we can automatically chop out esta and esa, and we're left with only este. So this soccer game is very boring. Este partido de fútbol es muy aburrido. So hopefully you are getting a feel for these, hopefully feeling a little better. So we will continue to look at another grammar topic now. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at our fourth grammar topic in chapter 4, which are irregular yo verbs. And you actually kind of already know some of these, so this should not be terribly hard for you. I want you to think back to the verb tener. You may recall learning about tener back in chapter 2. Tener is the verb in Spanish that means to have. And as we conjugated tener, we got tengo, tienes, tiene, tenemos, tenés, tienen. Well, at the time, we told you just to memorize this because it was an irregular verb. And that's true. It is irregular. However, now you can kind of break it down. Tener was a stem changer from E to IE. So we talked about stem changers earlier. So we got tienes, tiene, tienen. Those all stem change from an E to an IE. Tenemos and tenés were not bothered because they're not inside the boot, right? So it was an E to IE stem changer. It is irregular because the yo form of tener is an irregular yo verb, what I like to call a yo-go verb. So tener became tengo instead of tieno or teno. It became tengo. So you sort of already knew some irregular yo verbs. You just were told to memorize these before. There are other verbs in Spanish that work just like this. So think about the verb poner, which means to put or to place. If you think about conjugating poner, the first thing you're going to do is likely chop off your ER and carry down the pon part. And then if you want to go through and add some endings, you end up adding o, es, a, amos, es, and en. So you get pono, pones, pone, ponemos, pones, and ponen. Unfortunately, though, this is not correct because the yo form of poner is irregular. It's what we call an irregular yo verb or a yo-go verb. So the yo form, instead of being pono, becomes pongo. Pongo. There are other verbs in Spanish that work just like this. The three ones that you see in this chapter that are very common are poner, to put or to place, salir, to leave or to go out, and traer, to bring. All the other forms are totally unaffected. You just chop off the ER or IR, add your normal endings, es, e, imos, is, in, and you're good. But the yo form is different. Instead of salo, you get salgo. Instead of trao, you get traigo. So all of these are just slightly irregular. Another verb in this chapter is ver, which means to see. Ver is the same way. You chop off your ER, you add your normal endings, o, es, e, emos, es, in. It works for everything except for the yo form. Instead of vo, vio, you get veo. So that's also in this chapter as an irregular yo verb. So as you're looking at these, something you might be asked to do on My Spanish Lab or on a test is to look between these three verbs, pick the correct one, and conjugate it. For example, you're given poner, to put or to place, salir, to leave or to go out, and traer, to bring. We have to take these and fill in the blanks. So number one tells us that ellos blank a comer los jueves. So they blank to eat on Thursdays. So we're trying to say that they put or place to eat on Thursdays, they go out to eat on Thursdays, or they bring to eat on Thursdays. It makes the most sense to say that they go out to eat. So a lot of students just want to take this verb, they just want to take salir, and drop it in there just like that. Oh, we're done. Ellos salir a comer los huevos. However, we can't just say ellos salir a comer los jueves. That says they to go out to eat on Thursday. So we want to say they go out to eat. So let's take salir, chop off our ER, and to say that they go out to eat, we need to add our normal ellos form ending, which in this case is an en. So ellos salen a comer los jueves. We didn't have to change anything else because it wasn't the yo form. Look at another example. Number 2. Puedes blank en la lista los nombres de tus amigos. Are you able to blank on the list the names of your friends? So are you able to poner, put or place, salir, go out, or traer, bring? It makes the most sense here to say, are you able to put on the list the names of your friends? So we're going to use poner. In this case, we do not have to conjugate poner. We just leave it alone because we're asking, are you able to put the names of your friends on the list? Not, are you able, do you put? Just, are you able to put? The rule in Spanish, if you need another way to remember this, is that you cannot have two conjugated verbs side by side. So in this case, poner is in the infinitive form. It has not been conjugated. It still has the ER on the end, which is correct. It wouldn't make sense to say puedes pones. Okay? I want you to take a moment, pause your audio, and give numbers 3, 4, and 5 a try for me. Okay, now that you had a second to try, number 3 tells us that tengo que encontrar mi mochila antes de blank. So I have to find my backpack before blank. And your options are before poner, before putting or placing, before salir, before leaving, or before traer. So in this case, it makes sense to say I have to find my backpack before leaving, antes de salir. Number 4, mi esposo siempre blank chocolates a casa. So my husband always blank chocolates home. He always puts chocolates home, leaves chocolates home, or he always brings chocolates home. In this case, it makes the most sense to say that he always brings chocolates home. So we're going to take traer, to bring. We're going to chop off our ER in traer to say that he brings, and we're going to add back an E. Mi esposo siempre trae chocolates a casa. Okay? And then number 5. Tú siempre blank de casa a las 8 de la mañana. You always blank the house at 8 o'clock in the morning. You always put the house at 8 in the morning, leave the house, or bring the house. makes the most sense here to say that you always leave, tu siempre, and your verb is salir. We need to take salir and conjugate it by chopping off our IR. And to say that you always leave, we need to say that tú siempre sales de casa a las 8 de la mañana. All right, so hopefully you're feeling better about these irregular yo verbs, which again, only change in the yo form. Instead of pono, we have pongo. Instead of salo, salgo. Instead of traio, traigo. And instead of veo. Pongo, salgo, traigo, veo. Memorize those, you'll be doing great. Okay, friends, here we are for our final grammar topic in Chapter 4. This is the topic of saber versus conocer, which actually is one of my favorite topics to teach you about in Spanish, and I completely understand why your book put them in this chapter. Just like poner, traer, salir, and all those verbs we were just talking about that are irregular yo verbs, saber and conocer are also irregular only in the yo form. Okay, so first let's talk about how they're irregular. As you look at saber, everything except for the yo form makes perfect sense. You chop off your ER in saber and you get sabes, sabe, sabemos, sabes, saben. No big deal. Chop off your ER, throw the zensing on there. But the yo form is not sabo. There's no such thing as sabo, S-A-B-O. Sabo is not a word. We say yo sé or yo no sé. Okay, same thing with conocer. You chop off the ER in conocer and you get conoces, conoce, conocemos, conoces, and conocen. Totally not a problem there, totally normal, okay? The yo form, though, is not conozco. It actually gets a Z in here, and we end up with yo conozco. So both of the yo forms here, sé and conozco, are irregular in this case. Okay, they do not follow the normal grammar rules. They're irregular yo verbs. Now, so that's one thing you need to know. You just need to know they're irregular yo verbs. You get sé instead of sabo and conozco instead of conozco. Not too hard. Memorize it, write it down. You'll have it. Not a big deal. Now, what you really need to know, though, is that saber and conocer are the two verbs in Spanish that both mean to know. So you learned in a previous chapter about ser and estar, which both meant to be. And I gave you topic and place, and decide to figure out which one worked for to be. It's the same thing here with saber and conocer, but sort of on a smaller scale. Okay, so saber and conocer both mean to know. We use saber to talk about knowing information or knowing how to do something. So for example, I said Brittany sabe jugar al basketball. She knows how to play basketball. That's how to do something. So we use saber instead of conocer, and we use sabe to make it agree with Brittany. So Brittany sabe jugar al basketball. Okay? Another example, yo sé hablar español y italiano. I know how to speak Spanish and Italian. Well, in this case, that's also talking about how to do something. So I'm saying yo sé, I know. All right, so when you know information or how to do something, you use saber. Now, when you know people or you know places, we use conocer. So notice, I said that tú conoces Bristol. You know Bristol. Bristol is a place. So instead of using saber, I'm going to use conocer to say that tú conoces Bristol. However, notice also here I said I know Cardi B. Cardi B is a person. So you do use conocer instead of saber. In this case, I've said yo conozco a Cardi B. Notice from earlier, when what follows your verb is a person, you need a personal a after your verb. So yo conozco a Cardi B. Okay? So one more time. We use saber to talk about knowing information or how to do something. We use conocer to talk about knowing people or places. So let's look at number one. It says, yo blank escribir en español. I know to write in Spanish. Well, I know how to write in Spanish. Do I know information, people, places, or how to do something? In this case, I know how to do something. I know how to write in Spanish, so I'm going to be using saber. And you know that the yo form of saber is not sabo, but rather it is sé. So I'm going to say that yo sé escribir en español. Look at another example. Number two says that yo blank tu casa. I know your house. Well, in this case, is your house information, people, places, or how to do something? Your house is a place. So for places, which one do I use? Saber or conocer? Yeah, we use conocer. So to say that I know your house, we're going to use the yo form of conocer, and I'm going to say that yo conozco. Yo conozco tu casa. Okay, what about number 3? Yo blank Ryan Gosling. If I want to say I know Ryan Gosling, is Ryan Gosling information, people, places, or how to do something? Ryan Gosling is a person, so in this case, saber or conocer. Good, hopefully you're saying conocer. To say that I know, the yo form of conocer is conozco. But wait, there's more. I'm not done here. Because whatever follows my verb in this case is a person, I need to add a personal a. Yo conozco a Ryan Gosling. I want you to pause your audio, take a moment, and give numbers 4 and 5 a try for me. Okay, number 4 says that nosotros blank los primos de Meg. We know the cousins of Meg. So in this case, do we know information, people, places, or how to do something? Well, Meg's cousins are people. So if we know people, we're using conocer. We're going to use the nosotros form of conocer and say that nosotros conocemos los primos de Meg. However, because whatever follows conocer in this case is a person, I do need a personal a. I'm going to say that nosotros conocemos a los primos de Meg. Okay? And then finally, number 5, it says, tu blank el horario de clases de Lauren. Do you know the schedule of classes of Lauren? I'm not asking, do you know Lauren? I'm asking, do you know Lauren's class schedule? So in this case, I'm asking, do you know information, people, places, or how to do something? In this case, information. Do you know her schedule? So saber or conocer. Good, saber. And the to form of saber should be sabes. So I'm going to say that tú sabes el horario de clases de Lauren. All right. And our final activity, I actually stole this directly from my Spanish lab. Again, just more practice with saber and conocer. So if you feel good about it, you can stop listening. But if you need more practice, keep listening. Number 1 tells us that Noemi blank bien Honduras, Guatemala, y El Salvador. So Noemi knows really well these 3 countries. She knows places. So in this case, we're using conocer. The conocer form to go with Noemi would be conoce. And we're finished. Noemi conoce bien Honduras, Guatemala, y El Salvador. Number 2, Roberto y tú blank hablar alemán. So you and Roberto know how to speak German. Well, in this case, do you all know information, people, places, or how to do something? In this case, you know how to do something. You know how to speak German. So saber or conocer. Good, saber. And the saber form to go with Roberto and tú, or you all. If you're in Spain, you would say sabes. Anywhere else, you would say saben. I'd take either one. Number 3, nosotros blank cuando empieza la película. So we know when the movie begins. Do we know information, people, places, or how to do something? In this case, we know information. So saber or conocer. Good, saber. And the saber form to go with nosotros should be, aha, very good, sabemos. Excelente. Okay, our last 2, I want you to take a moment, pause your audio, and give these a try. Okay, now that you've had a second to try these, in number 4, we have Margarita y Esteban. And it says that Margarita y Esteban blank a muchos profesores de la Facultad de Medicina. So Margarita and Esteban know a lot of professors in the College of Medicine. So they know a lot of professors. They know people, professors. We're going to be using conocer. And to say they know, we're going to say conocen. But don't I need something else? Don't I need an a? In this case, they already put your personal a in here, so you don't have to worry about adding it or anything. It's already there for you. And then number 5, blank tú bailar salsa. Do you know how to salsa dance? We're talking about knowing how to do something, so we're going to use saber. And the to form of saber should be sabes. And as Bugs Bunny would say, that's all, folks. I hope you guys have a great day. And if you have any questions about any of this at any time, feel free to drop me an email. Have a great day, everyone. Ciao.